Let's have a look at this downloadable explanation of the factors that will cause the aggregate demand curve and the aggregate supply curve to shift around. This is in the course document section. This is in the to-do list, module 11. Aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. Okay, let's look at these factors that will cause the aggregate demand curve to shift, the factors that will cause the aggregate demand curve to shift, and in which way. Okay, maybe you should download this and have the paper in front of you and follow along with this video. Now, the determinants of aggregate demand are going to be caused by changes in the spending habits or the spending practices of the spenders. Who are the spenders? The households, the consumers, they spend. The firms, they spend. What do they buy? Well, you and I buy widgets and zerks and flanges. These are examples I use in class. The firms, they buy widget-making machines, zerk-making machines, etc. They buy capital equipment. They buy goods that produce goods, but nevertheless, that's spending. Okay, so the consumer is one source of spending, by far the largest source of spending. 2/3, 70%, something like that of total spending is accounted for by the consumer. Firms spend. Government, huge spender, and foreigners also spend. So let's look at the factors that will cause the aggregate demand curve to shift. The first of these, personal taxes. If the government raises personal taxes, your income taxes, you will have left over to spend. When spending goes down, the aggregate demand curve shifts to the left. If the government cuts personal taxes, that'll cause the aggregate demand curve to shift to the right. The second, the perception of household wealth. If I perceive myself, my household to be richer, I will start acting like a rich person and spend more. Aggregate demand curve will shift to the right. If people perceive their wealth to be lower, they will spend less. Aggregate demand curve will shift to the left. Now, what will affect people's perception of their wealth? Primarily will be the value of their stock portfolio and the equity that they have in their house. So if the stock market takes off, the value of their stock portfolio goes up, they'll feel richer, they'll spend more, aggregate demand curve shifts to the right. Or if, say, the value of their house falls, they will perceive themselves to be poorer because indeed the equity in their house has gone down. When they feel poorer, they will spend less, causing the aggregate demand curve to shift to the left. The consumer's expectations about future performance of the economy, that's the third in this list. If people expect a stronger economy in the future, they will say, hey, my job is secure, I may even get a raise. You know what? They'll start spending that raise now. If they start spending more, the aggregate demand curve will shift to the right. If they say, whoa, I may be unemployed next year at this time because the economy seems very weak, we may go into a recession. If they think they're going to be unemployed or might be unemployed, they're going to start saving for that rainy day. And when they start saving more, they start spending less. Aggregate demand curve shifts to the left. Finally, interest rates. If interest rates go up, the purchase of things that you buy on time will be now more expensive, and credit card debt will be more expensive. You'll spend less. If interest rates go down, for the same logic, you will spend more. How about businesses? What will affect business spending? Well, one will be business expectations about future performance of the economy. If businesses expect a strong economy in the future, they'll start planning for the boom times now. They'll start preparing by buying more and more capital equipment. If they think there's going to be a slower economy, possibly a recession in the near future, they won't even replace depreciated capital. Their spending will go down. Technology will make capital more productive. If capital is more productive, they will spend more on capital equipment. And interest rates, if interest rates go up, the purchase of capital equipment will go down. If interest rates go down, the purchase of capital equipment will go up. If the government spends more, like running budgetary deficits, total spending will go up, aggregate demand curve shift to the right. If government spending goes down, like now in the sequester, aggregate demand curve will shift to the left. Now this brings us to the foreign sector. You can see the last item on this determinants of aggregate demand, the foreign sector. Number one, incomes abroad. Clearly, if foreign countries become richer for some reason, maybe a bumper crop, or they've discovered petroleum or some sort of precious metal, if their incomes go up, a portion of that income is going to be used buying American goods. When they buy more American goods, the spending in America will go up from the foreign sector, aggregate demand curve shift to the right. If foreign incomes go down, incomes in other countries go down, that's going to cause the aggregate demand curve for American goods to go down. Now, let's look at this exchange rates. The term exchange rate refers to the price of an American dollar or some currency in international currency markets. Currencies are traded like stocks or bonds or anything else. And the price of a particular currency, say a dollar, in terms of some other currency is known as the exchange rate. Let us suppose that at the moment, $1 exchanges for €1 in international currency markets. That means if some guy from, say, Germany, where they use euros, wants to buy an American refrigerator costing $500, he's going to have to exchange his euros for dollars in order to buy it, so that $500 American refrigerator is going to cost that guy 500 euros. Now let's suppose that the price of a dollar increases in international currency markets. We would say that the price of a dollar becomes stronger. Let's say, for simplicity's sake, that it now takes €2 to buy $1. Notice how the price of a dollar has gone up. The dollar has strengthened. Now that a $500 American refrigerator is going to cost this guy 1,000 euros. And he's going to buy fewer American refrigerators. So if the dollar strengthens in international currency markets, this will cause American goods to become more expensive to foreigners, causing our exports to go down and the aggregate demand curve to shift to the left. By the same token, if the dollar strengthens in international currency markets, foreign goods will become cheaper to Americans. We will buy more foreign goods. When we buy more foreign goods, we buy less foreign American goods, and the aggregate demand curve will shift to the left. So, to summarize, if the dollar becomes stronger in international currency markets, the aggregate demand curve will shift to the left. If the dollar becomes weaker in international currency markets, by the same reason, although not explained in the textbook, the aggregate demand curve will shift to the right. I'm going to make another video here on aggregate supply. Stay tuned.